was pretty confident of two things growing up. I knew that I did not want to live in a big city, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with government.
What in you, being a believer, how does it end up in City Hall?
The question is, do you put your blinders on, or do you see all the victims of bad leadership and say, I got to do something about it? And start by fixing your own neighborhood.
What does a thriving city look like?
I guess I could ask you, what does a thriving human look like?
Welcome back to the MakeReady Podcast. My name is Brian Sims, and today I'm joined by Adam McGough, former Dallas City Council member, community leader, and follower of Christ who's spent years on the front lines of serving his city. Adam shares why local government is one of the most personal forms of leadership, how faith shapes the way we engage our communities, and why every man should take responsibility for the place he calls home. We also talk about the danger of chasing power and why faithfulness, not political wins, is the true measure of success. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to this podcast. And if you'd like to contribute to our mission, there's a link in the description below. This is the MakeReady Podcast. Adam McGough.
What's up, Brian?
How often do people say that incorrectly?
95%
There's like
of the time.
6 different ways. McGough?
McGough, McGough, Magoo, Magutch, Magooch. I get
How would your grandmother say it?
G-Mom. She'd say McGough.
McGough.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Let it be said for now and forever.
There you go.
Grandma G.
Although
yes.
most people go with the Mr. Magoo cartoon character analysis. So we accept that. And that carries better on the large PA system when you're playing sports and stuff like that. So
That's very true.
we take it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that we get to talk because I've been thinking a lot about, we office together and I get to watch you be faithful and all the different things that you do. And when you were running hard with the city, when you were on city council,
Yep.
we didn't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've gotten to see Adam post all of that service and that engagement.
Yep.
It's been a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, was it Arizona?
Yeah.
Was that
No,
when
we met
first
at Todsdale in
crossed
Arizona.
paths? Okay. Yeah.
That's what Todd bringing people together.
There it is.
It happens.
Good stuff.
It happens.
Yep.
I'm really curious what you think about, because obviously you have a philosophy of how one as a Christian man should see not only city government but engaging in your local community in general. I think you get two different sides of the spectrum. People that are just like, I can't do anything. I'm busy with my life. I'm busy at my church. The city's crazy and it's going to figure itself out. Fix the potholes. And then there's the other side that I think get potentially too engaged, where they think the city's going to solve all of your problems.
Sure.
Where do you stand?
Man, so as I'm thinking about that, I go all the way back to my roots. So I grew up in East Texas in small town, Nacogdoches. And I was pretty confident of two things growing up. I knew that I did not want to live in a big city, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with government. However,
wait, you remember having those specific thoughts?
Explicit. A lot of it had to do with our family circumstances and kind of what we all went through and financial ups and downs and things like that. That I didn't trust the government. I didn't want, for the most part, some of the people that I knew there were involved, well-intentioned, were doing the right things, but that was small town. Anytime you got in the big city, everything I saw was like, it's corrupt. It's people doing things for their self-interests. And, I certainly didn't see things as better in the big cities. And so, however, I was a believer. And I'm, as God does, he takes us on journeys we don't ever expect. And, took me to Austin for UT undergrad and had someone I respect a ton, Jim McReynolds, was in my church back in Nacogdoches. And
By the way, that's the only source of conflict that me and Adam have.
Yeah, the UT-A&M thing.
He went to the enemy school.
I love my Aggie friends.
Okay, well, now you're a politician.
Yeah, maybe. But most people from East Texas went to A&M. I was an outlier. There was only a couple in my class that made that trip down to Austin. So, and I won't even go about what even myself thought about people in Austin at the time. But it was, I got the chance to go work at the Capitol and starting to see some of the behind the scenes things. And, I remember my impactful discussion I had with the state rep that I was working for. And he just said, because he was a Democrat and I'm certainly more conservative. And almost everybody I've worked for in the political world has been Democrats, especially going to the big city. But and he just said, well, I think Jesus would have been a Democrat. And, at the time I'm listening to mentors and learning and kind of on my journey of wisdom and growth. And that meant something to me. And so then, you get some of that experience. You come to Dallas. I go to law school. I start kind of meeting and networking and learning all the different things. And you can't start experiencing big city life and not start seeing problems that are right around you. And the question is, do you put your blinders on? Do you focus on kind of my world, or do you see all the pain and struggle and hurt and the victims of bad leadership and all that and say, I can't just sit and watch it. I got to do something about it. And so that, I think, is sort of the impetus of both following what I felt God was calling me step by step and trying to be faithful in that journey. And then saying, okay, I can't just watch what's happening. I got to do something about it. And that then opens up all sorts of other avenues.
That's a dangerous belief, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. In fact, so much so that I even, like most people, I went to law school because I wanted to help people, right? Everybody has that something kind of draw into them. But you also go because you want to make money and you want to make sure your family's taken care of and you can live comfortably and you can and do the kind of things that this world has to offer. And, I started down that journey. Okay, I'm getting the law degree. I'll do this other things to sort of scratch that itch of service and being faithful, but I'm still going to go the professional path and make money, and then I'll do these things on the side.
Mediation is the direction.
It was all legal. It was a commercial litigation at the time. I was a practicing attorney, and I had started taking mediation classes, went out to Pepperdine and did the LLM and dispute resolution and started mediating all over Southern California, which was
a very ugly university. I don't understand why anybody goes there. Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, you walk out on the breaks would take longer every time because you'd take a break outside and you'd look out over the Pacific Ocean.
Just stare at it.
The beaches down here on the, looking down over the hill of Malibu Mountain. I mean, it was just a great experience. But I would then get in my car, drive through the valley. It'd be 82 degrees on the coast, and it'd be 103 in downtown, and we'd go mediate and help people in those situations. But it was, okay, that's all well and good. Eventually you get to that kind of stuff. What you got to do first is go make your money, and then you can come back and serve. And, it was a random phone call. Still don't know exactly how this person, Roxanne Pice, in the city attorney's office of Dallas, called and said, we have this job that is what's called a community prosecutor. Didn't know what that meant. In Nacogdoches, we didn't have code officers. We didn't know kind of organizational structure of big city staffing and things like that. And
like someone to go prosecute the community.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I can do that.
Sounds like helping people.
That's right. In fact, my son and I just drove through one of the very first areas, because what they do is they assign you to the highest crime areas in the city. We had 5 identified areas by Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funding, that were the highest crime areas of the city, and they assigned an attorney and a code officer, and we worked with people to make it better, whatever that means. We were going after drug dealers and elite, drug properties, smoke houses, illegal businesses, selling alcohol, selling other things after hours, that kind of stuff. And I just recently drove through, and there was a particular property that I worked very hard on, ended up having to file litigation against the owner, and we made progress. We got the place up to minimum housing standards, which in this case meant that one lady did not have sparks flying into her daughter's bedroom out of the closet every time the heater turned on. So, I mean, people are living in squalor and terrible conditions and still paying full market rent on stuff like that. And but I say all that to say the news ran the story because that particular owner had a relationship with some of the news journalists that I was the community persecutor, not the community prosecutor. And so that one kind of stung a little bit and has resonated in that moment. But yeah, I did my job. I did it pretty well.
Still have that paper clipping? Was that the headline?
Yeah, it was on the news. Love seeing that.
And so when did you? I don't know if you knew this. So my great granddad was on city council for Dallas. My granddad was a county commissioner. He was a city councilman in Bryan, Texas. He was a county judge. So I grew up around service in that way. And all the stories about how it's not at all what you think it is. Yeah. And how hard it is. And people tend to make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
What in you, being a believer, attaches your skill, being a lawyer, your skill, your talents, your time, your passions? How does it end up in City Hall? Because there's so many other things. Yeah. There's so many other things you could do with those.
Well, what we say is that all of our gifting and what we do is to bring glory to God. And we follow the first great commandment is to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. And when you love your neighbor as yourself, you have to take a sense of responsibility and duty to adopt or at least uncover their interests in safety, their interest in quality of life, their interest in education, and all these things. And a lot of people choose to do that in different ways. You know, you might coach a youth team, you might lead a local scout troop, you might join your HOA. You know, there's lots of ways you can plug in to lead. And so I just started listening to those things and started identifying. And when I got that sort of random call to be a community prosecutor, it was sort of an exciting challenge for me. Now, at the time, I was making really good money. I had a legal practice. My had just really gotten married. My wife was doing her thing, and everything. Didn't have kids yet, and all those things are happening. And to take this assignment, I would have to kind of shut down all these things that were making money for me, and say, no, I'm going to now go. I still think it's funny. One of the things they assign you when you first start is a bulletproof vest, because you do go on night raids and you crawl through drug houses and things like that, and you're out in the field. You're not just filing the lawsuits at the courthouse. You go to the inspections.
We're going to cut your income by a significant amount, but you get this really nice,
cool vest,
bulletproof vest. Yeah.
Went later. Fast forward, when I ran for office, I took one of the photo shoots in my bulletproof vest, and it was corny. And my kids to this day make fun of it. But I had to get something out of that stinking bulletproof vest that I wore for
you got the
6 years and crawling through all that stuff. But you do that, and you start, you see people different when you're actually in their homes. And, we did all the different things, Santa cops. I'd go with all the officers into people's homes around Christmas, and we'd do an analysis to see what all they needed, and they'd make wish lists, and we'd go out, help get all these lists funded. And you saw good, bad, and everything in the middle. And you can't experience those lives and have a sense of duty and love for your fellow person and not feel a responsibility to do something about it. And so that's what started it. Okay. That was I couldn't keep the blinders on. I'm going to find some way to use whatever gifting God has given me to help. And, I'd just come back from doing all these mediations. And so I was able to sit down with people from very different backgrounds, everything from slumlords negotiating with either vendors that were helping to improve the property or needed to, or help a dear friend now who was living in a housing authority property that she wanted to start a daycare, and the housing wouldn't allow her to do so. And we negotiated terms that allowed her to. And real quickly, she had 6, 7, 8, 10 kids that she was taking care of, started a little business, helped her get out of housing. And, a few years ago, she sent me a notice and talked about celebrating that she was owning her own home. And now she's leading in other contexts out in the public world. And so, one by one, these little stories, you just start having success. The things that I learned in mediation, which is largely around interest-based negotiation, not going by what people say they want, but what is underlying. What are their real interests need to be met, and again, a lot of that feeds into our own selves. A lot of us think we know what we want, but truth coming only from Scripture helps guide us on what we really need. And so, just kind of trying to live that life, and it just. Two things came from that. One is I was successful at doing those things, and quickly people start to recognize, and they see that as different than what else is happening. And when they see that as different, they tend to elevate you into different roles. And so I became the chief of the section, and things started growing and kind of building from there.
What do you think most Christian guys got families, just your typical, what do they get correct about how they feel about city government, and what do they get wrong about it?
Yeah, so
because there's a lot of opinions out there.
Yeah. First, what people get wrong for the most part is they don't engage in city government. There is no government piece that is closer to you than your plumbing, your trash, your streets, your public safety, your EMS. I mean, it's life or death. And all of that comes from your local government. That comes from your cities, your municipalities, your counties. And I see so many people that spend the majority of their time navigating national political issues, international things that are super important. I'm not trying to minimize, but start by fixing your own neighborhood, your own community. And you can't do that without engaging. You just can't. There's, I constantly look back at those old Verizon commercials with your Verizon team behind you. As I stepped into roles of leadership in the city, and of course it started in the mayor's office, then went to city council, I was only effective as the size of the team of people that I had behind me. And man, it was some fun times when you had, community come together around something they're passionate about, and then I got to be kind of anointed or appointed to be in a leadership of that group, and then watch how they came together and the credibility that built for me personally, but then for the community. I mean, all of a sudden, it started by asking what they wanted. I can come in and do a pretty good asset mapping and problem analysis and look at where we need to focus in a community to really help that community uplift. But step one is asking them, what is your biggest issue? What is something that if it could change, you would have hope in your community? And everybody has something. It may be something as simple as, a particular house on the street that's not mowing their yard, or it may be a drug house that's been there for 20 years and been busted 50 times, but no one's ever done anything really about it. And it's sort of just acquiesced that it's okay in this community, to let something like this exist, whatever it is. And, being able to say it's not okay and this community doesn't want it to happen and go do something about it is incredibly rewarding.
But Adam, the how is a huge deal. Like I know personally, the how is a big hurdle. Like, how do I have a say in these things? How do I encourage my local city?
Yeah.
What do I do logistically?
Yeah. And my first simple answer is engage. Now, what does that look like?
Like, who do I call? Like, what's the, yeah.
Well, you do call your city council person. You do call the individuals that are actually assigned to your particular neighborhood and area and get to know them. I mean, just treat them like humans. But I'm telling you, from 8 years on council, all I wanted was to find people that were passionate about an issue and would show up and do something about it. And if they would, I would put everything I had behind what they were doing. And what do I have in Dallas? You have one vote. And then your ability to make it enough, get it important enough to get 7 other people to agree with you on council. If it's a budgetary issue, if it's money issue or whatever. But, it is so simple. The how. It's show up. It's be present. It's get in their face. It's, my middle son, Cooper, I was advocating as hard as I could for LBJ East, the project that's now under construction around north part of the city. And I won't get into all the politics of it, but I was going down every month to speak to the Transportation Commission in Austin. And every month we met with, sometimes it was 5, sometimes it was 10, maybe 15 local people in the community from different walks of life, because everybody had a different angle. We had people that were working, we had people that were homeless, we had people that were in school, we had moms, everybody, grandparents. And I'd go and we'd kind of orchestrate different messaging of, you're telling this part, but we'd talk to the Transportation Commission. And 2 things happened to that. One, after about 6 trips and showing up over and over again, the commission finally said, okay, we'll fund, and there's more nuance to it, but we'll fund the LBJ project. We just had to limit.
Which is not a small bill.
It was about $2 billion. Now, the other thing was my son, Cooper, who had been watching me go down, and he's one of the times that I spoke right before me was a family that was speaking about their daughter who'd been killed in a car accident. And at the time, there was a 20-year streak where some person, some human, has died on one of Texas's roads or highways every single day. There's not been a single day where we have not had a death on Texas highways. Sometimes upwards of 17 to 20 and all the way down per day for over 20 years. And so, again, at the time, I think he was maybe 7 years old. He said or maybe 8. He said, that's crazy. We can do something about that. Well, can't we all just one day, stay home, don't go to work, really be extra careful,
just to break the record,
just break the streak, And so he did a science project of trying to say, can we do this, or can we at least influence it? And so how did he do that? Now, his how was, he said, well, I know somebody on Dallas City Council, Dad, I'll go speak at council. So he came, he got signed up for his 3 minutes at council, and he spoke. And a couple of the news stations picked it up, and then they asked him to come speak down at Fox Morning. And then we get the call that TxDOT, Department of Transportation, wanted him to speak back at the Transportation Council in Austin. They did a thing about it. Mark Davis did a thing. It kind of just escalated. And pretty soon he had a really active voice in transportation issues for the state of Texas. I mean, news stories ran all the way from El Paso and Lubbock area to East Texas and Nacogdoches. And so, again, I share that just to say it's a lot easier than people think. Just show up and care, and then, vote with your feet. Put yourself behind the issue you want, what you want to do, and go make it happen. It's not that hard, but people put up barriers, or like you said, they say, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just leaving that to the crazies or whoever else is willing to get in that arena.
Yeah. It's amazing how the trash doesn't show up one day, how animated people get all of a sudden. Yeah. So I thought what you said earlier was really interesting about most of the people you worked for initially were Democrats. Yep. And I know in city government there's, there aren't really Democrats and Republicans, but people know.
Yep.
And Ryan Williams, who I had on the podcast a couple days ago, I think had said similar things that I've heard you say about how the other side, like Democrats are not evil. Some of the things they do are, but they're not animated by going and doing evil. Nope. Like they think they're doing good. For
sure. I mean, almost nobody does anything intentionally evil.
And even the other directions, how Democrats think about Republicans, Republicans think about Democrats.
Yeah. In fact, I will go the whole other direction. I think everybody goes into it trying to make a positive impact and trying to help and love others and serve others. And, there's almost unanimously is a driving factor. And I'll just show personal experience. I won't kind of extend this to everybody, but I can tell you my journey was such that, like many people, when I first got elected, and you know the story, but I won by 35 votes in the last precinct reporting of a
I did not know
runoff
that.
vote.
I did not know that story.
End. I mean, it was crazy.
35 closest friends.
Yeah. I mean, literally. There was one of my former council member, Pauline Medrano, called me that afternoon of that runoff election, and she goes, I just found out that one of my nieces lives in your district, and I told her, and she said they had 10 people in there at their house right there, and they all went and voted for you this afternoon.
And sorry to sidetrack, but that's common. Like, that's really common in local elections. These get decided by super small majorities.
Yeah, super small.
Yeah.
And that does something to you too, because you recognize, okay, now once I'm in this position and I won by such a few, like I owe this opportunity to serve to every single person that showed up. And so I want to do right by every single person. And I did what people do. You kind of get, okay, my first 90 days, my first 100 days, here are the list of things I want to get accomplished. I want to talk to everybody else and help build my to-do list. And, it was a massive to-do list. It included projects like LBJ East that were $2 billion projects, and it included, getting a particular street light updated, or a sign replaced at a neighborhood, simple to very complex. And what happened was I started focusing on those things, and I think provision of God, but we were successful. Mm-hmm. And the list that's supposed to take your first term or all 8 years, we had killed that list in the first 2 years. And it was, things that new aquatics center, getting new libraries funded, that never would have happened without the community stepping up, showing up. And I got to watch it all. Like I just got to play a part, but you also get a lot of credit for those kind of things. And then what happens is I learn that somewhere in here, that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't here in this role. And you start, as we know how the pride of sin, the sin of pride, you start to see how that changes you and how you start viewing yourself in a different way. And for me, it was like, okay, I have to stay in this position. So I have to do what I need to do to get reelected. And there became sort of little opportunities that were like, oh, I can see how that's a shortcut, or I can see, but it's okay because I'm here. Mm-hmm. It's okay because it's me. And it only took a few of those kind of just moments where I'm hedging, almost like, oh yeah, I could do that, to get yourself straight and be like, no, man, that's about me now. That's not about, and man, God does not need me in this role to do the things that he's already ordained to do. He's sovereign and he's good. I'm not. I am sinful. I am evil. I am just riding his coattails to try to do all I can while I'm here to bring other people to him. And as soon as your mind starts switching to, it's important that I'm in this role, everything goes out the window. And I see that happening over. And so I believe I was able to catch that in myself. and not let that be the pervasive, self-centered, self-focused mentality during my service. We may find people out there that disagree with that, and I hope they'll come and talk to me about it, because I don't know it, but I definitely want to ask forgiveness for those times where that may have happened. But I see that happen in politics all the way up, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous because we are but small and but a breath, and we were not going to be here forever. And whatever dominion that we get is only given to us from God. And as soon as we start thinking we're worthy of that, there's a whole nother issue.
How did you draw the line between when helping hurts people and when it is essential to them for them to grow?
Man, I don't know if I can draw that line. It's a
you know what I mean by
I
that?
do. You're kind of referencing the book When Helping Hurts, and
Sure.
there's so many systems designed to be handouts, and there's so many. There was a distinct moment in my public service where, as a community prosecutor, I had the opportunity to work on group homes and homelessness issues, and I spent a great deal of time. I mean, at one point in time, I had been in every group housing center. It was, I won't get into all the details, but a lot of different land uses, but all over the city. Some of them were houses, some of them were apartments, some of them were halfway houses, handicapped group dwelling units, group residential facilities, everything out there. And I went into every one that was reported publicly or privately and talked to the people, and you learn a lot doing that, and it's a hugely complex issue. But what the world, or I'm going to now specifically speak to a lot of churches, do is they have a coat drive or a turkey drive or some kind of drive that is very, again, well-intentioned. It is, I got no problem. In fact, they're amazing humans and amazing believers that are leading and doing some of these efforts. But we just had a day-old bread drive at our substation in East Dallas, and I would go and go into some of our drug houses, and we'd look and see all of the bread and the things that had been brought to our house to give out were going to those houses, and then they were profiting from some of the stuff that we were handing out at the police station. And so, real quickly, I was like, this is not helping. I would during that time period where I was talking to everybody out in the streets and visiting all the homeless camps, I was doing interviews. So I was asking people, what is it that you need? And we had a list, kind of a running list that we could ask, whether it was, some of them wanted mail from family members, some of them wanted a hot shower, some of them wanted, meals, all this kind of stuff. Almost across the board, the unanimous number one was not any of those physical needs. It was something along the lines of someone to do what you're doing with me right now. I just want someone to talk to, someone to listen, to hear my story.
Really?
And that's crazy to me, right? But you juxtapose that with getting a coat or a turkey during Thanksgiving. Those are great things. But what they really want and need, their interest, is to have someone that knows their story, that knows who they are, that has community. We won't take the time to get to know somebody. We'll go to the back of our closet and find a coat that we're never going to wear again and take it to the drop-off spot and feel good about ourselves. And again, feel good. Those are good things to do. I've had great moments of interaction with people by handing them a coat and then sharing a dialogue after doing that.
But it was the dialogue.
But it was the dialogue that makes the difference. It's the community that makes the difference. It's not the handout. And I think all of us want to, pray in that moment and feel good about giving the panhandler $5 and, because they had something tugged on you in that moment, or maybe the Spirit nudged you. Maybe Spirit does that. That's great. But if you really want to help that person, either put your resources into an organization that deals with through relationally connecting and accountability and helping that person get on their feet, or do it yourself. But the $5 to the panhandler is, I mean, it angers me when I see it happen because it's not helping that person.
Well, it sounds like it invalidates them. Well, panhandler's different because he's there. He's seeking that.
Well, and so much of that is commercial.
And a lot
let's
of it's
just be real clear. In Dallas, most of our panhandlers are commercial, business-oriented panhandlers. They are doing that because they make more money doing that than they would if they worked a hourly job.
Yeah.
And
they're going to start just asking for like Apple Pay. You know, can you just kind of give me
Can you Venmo me money?
Can you Venmo me money? Churches seem so uniquely positioned to fulfill this exact problem. Why are they not doing it?
Oh my goodness. I used to run with this stat. I haven't thought about it in a lot since you asked this question, but you know, I had it at a certain point. I knew the number of churches that we had in Dallas. That number has actually waned in recent years, but we have a ton of churches. And, you know, depending upon the count and the different time, you're talking about 4,000-ish people living on the streets. Like, if every church just took one or two people into their lives and said, we're not just going to give you this, but we're going to hold ourselves accountable for your well-being, and we're going to, you know, wherever your need is, and the need may be, it may be physical, it may be mental, it may be addictive, there's all sorts of issues, but they're all different, and you can't bulk them into any category. It's individual. And if we just loved people that way, we could reduce or eliminate our problems pretty quickly. But instead, we count by numbers, and we talk about, you know, we passed out. I'm picking on coat drives too much, but we passed out, you know, 300 coats, and people will be warmer in the winter, which, God bless it.
What does a thriving city look like?
Ooh. Man.
Would we even know if we saw it?
I guess I could ask you, what does a thriving human look like? And
fair enough.
See if we could answer that question, then we could probably get there. Because I think it's not you don't look at it in the phrase of a city. You look at it community by community, and
which is just a group of people.
It's a group of people, and maybe that's a neighborhood, but maybe it is a place where people do care for one another, and they're going to put others' interests above their own, and they're going to love each other. Now that's not necessarily giving you everything you want. It's quite honestly the opposite. It's holding you accountable. It's, in my worldview, it's being biblically honoring. It's following the truth that we know is in Scripture, but that you have somebody, when you're struggling with something, you can tell them, and you know they're going to do something about it. And more often than not in this city, and in most cities, people don't really want to get to know you that well. You kind of just want to ask you how you're doing and hope you say okay and go about your business.
Well, God didn't call us to live and let live.
Not at all. Exactly the opposite.
You just can't take politics out of it. It's such a clear and present deal. And I think for good reason. I mean, I think that a lot of, you know, what do some say, that you can really know about somebody's theology by knowing about their politics and how they see government, and how, is it God ordained? Is it, you know, are men basically good or basically evil? How have those presuppositions played into how you see all of it?
How do I see all of it? I don't love partisan politics. It's why I felt comfortable going into the city level where it's supposed to be. And for the most part, it is nonpartisan. I mean, over the years, we've definitely had a trajectory towards more partisan things.
What do you mean by partisan politics?
I mean, two parties, Republican, Democrat, And do you
everything comes down to a binary decision.
And I can't make a decision based on what I think's right in this circumstance. I have to make a decision based on what the party wants me to do.
What the party decided before the circumstance even existed.
Yep.
And so it didn't even evaluate it based on that circumstance. It evaluated on some past.
Yeah. I mean, an example. And going back to the LBJ project, there was, and there is a antagonism towards tolls. I mean, nobody wants to pay twice for your taxes, and now I'm having to pay to ride on a particular highway. And there was a lot of partisan fights over tolls. LBJ was stopped because it had a tolling component to it. So it had free lanes, but then it also had toll express lanes, similar to the express lanes going west from 75. And I knew that my community wanted the sound walls and they wanted LBJ East constructed. Most people didn't care if it had tolls or not. The people that did wanted the toll option because it was a guaranteed speed and path from here to the DFW airport, essentially. And the people that were in working service jobs said, I can get a whole extra job per week when I have these toll roads of the time I would be sitting in traffic, and so there was lots of different, arguments on that. So that meant now I'm pro getting this road done, which meant I was pro having optional toll managed lanes as part of the project. Well, that went against certain party philosophies. And now those people, leadership in those parties, are viewing me as antagonistic to them because I'm supporting this project for my city and my people and my communities that need this. Not to mention the fact that it was a public safety issue. That was the most dangerous intersection at Skillman and 635 anywhere in this region based on number of deaths and car accidents. And so, yes, this needs to happen. It's a city issue. It's a transportation issue. But then I'm getting animosity from partisan politics all the way up to the state level and beyond. And, that sucks.
Just to put it plainly.
It just sucks. You want to you want people that you align with to align with you and to be on things. But yet now I'm anti-party things. And I just wish it wasn't that way.
Well, you can't please everybody. And on the party side of things, Republican or Democrat, I mean, a lot of that is using a sledgehammer to drive a bunch of nails.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a sledgehammer. Yeah. Sometimes the nail's really freaking big.
But the ironic part about that was we had a group that they were, I think, a day apart, but the senatorial platform was being developed, and the Republicans had a meeting in one area and the Democrats had a meeting in another area. And we had two different groups that we were both a part of, and we went and got the exact same language approved on both platforms. That was one of our just moments of success.
And had they known, it would never happen.
So, no way at all. Yeah.
Oh, man. So we talked about how it's seen correctly, how government is seen correctly, how it's seen poorly. Or inaccurately. What are some tangible things that churches especially could do that would take a lot of the weight off of city government to go do things? Because a lot of the people that sit in these churches are voters that say, I don't want to pay my taxes to go do these specific things. And the city looks back and goes, nobody's doing them, so we have to do it.
Yeah. My first answer to that is read the agendas. I know that seems bizarre because I know you, and I know that you from your history, and one of the things that I respected from the moment we met is you don't only just know what's going on, you care and you're engaged, and I'm willing to bet you hadn't read a city council agenda at least in the last 6 months. Maybe ever.
You're asking for a confession.
I mean, people don't pay attention to it. I just talked to the city manager this morning, and there's, I think, 5 briefings coming up.
I'm about soft power, Adam, not hard power.
Well, if you actually read the stuff, some of it's mind-numbing, don't get me wrong. Okay. But if you actually read the items before they're coming up and had an opinion about them, I mean, I can't tell you, over 8 years when I was on council, I bet 10 times. And I mean, most council agendas have 170 to 100 items on the agenda every other Wednesday. So every 2 weeks. I remember begging people like, hey, would you just help me review that? Because I have to vote on every item on that agenda. And it's a lot. And some of the background material is hundreds of pages on each item and been going on for months or years. I was like, would you just read it and tell me what you care about? And I couldn't get people to do that. And so that leaves it up to me in that particular role, which most of the time I would do my reviews after the kids were in bed. So between 11 o'clock and 2 a.m., laying on my floor at my desk, reading these agendas and making the best decision I could based on what I knew. And I guess people used to ask me when I first got elected of what was the biggest surprise. The biggest surprise was I thought it was like House of Cards or all the other shows that you had support staff that could get you briefed on everything. And I just had to come in and make the decisions. And
No. You are the support staff.
You are the support. You have support. And man, I've had some wonderful people work for me at City Hall, but they're one person, their entire job is just trying to keep your calendar organized. And the other is really just dealing with specific constituent claims about the hole in their garbage can. And so you just don't have help. And man, if a church or churches or group of believers really wanted to get involved and they just start taking agenda items and really looking into them and helping then inform the council and or whoever was the decision makers in that of what's going on, and here are some particular issues you need to bring up, and here are some problems with that, and here's we'd be so much better.
I think a lot of churches see that as, well, we can't get involved in politics.
Oh, they're wrong. They're just wrong.
I mean, you look at the left side of the ledger, and there's a lot of Second Baptists out there that are
Yep.
in the middle of the game,
Yep.
and they're serving in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of them are doing things that you would, not agree with, but
Yep.
but they're out there, they're doing it, they're taking responsibility.
For sure.
What would that look like if
the strongest advocacy groups at the local level, I'll speak from personal experience, are the smaller groups of people, not the majorities. They've been unified because of a shared trait or shared something that puts them in this category where they want to advocate for their particular, which is how it works. I mean, I remember I've said several times while we've been talking about self-interest being sort of the negative of an elected official. Everybody acts out of self-interest. Like when you want the advocacy to have self-interest, or that's the only thing they're going to fight for.
Well, it's built into the system. That's why being reelected is so important.
Yep.
Because you have to in some way be beholden to your voters.
Yep. Yeah, the majority of people are going to go vote because they're mad. I also, going through a campaign is such an educational experience. I wish everybody would do it. I wish everybody would get the app that when you go knock on doors for a candidate, nobody knows this until you've done it. The app, I'll walk up to a house before I get to the door to knock. I can look up. I can see their entire voter history. I know the age of everybody that lives in that house. I know they're leaning right or left, Republican or Democrat, dark blue, light red, all the way. I know so much about them based on that. And we already know who's going to vote and who's not going to vote based on generally past records, past history. And when I first was going through this experience, I just didn't believe it. I just was like, no way. I mean, I can look at this house and know the people and know that they've got kids in the middle school, kids in the high school, that the signs on their yard are everything from cheerleading to varsity football to everything. They're engaged in everything. Mm-hmm. And so I look at my tablet and it says, they hadn't voted in the last 3 municipal elections. skip that house, go to the next one. Like, no way, these people care.
Yeah.
And it has what church they go to right next to the sign in their yard. I know they're believers. I go knock on the door. We have a great conversation. And at the end, you're supposed to have some degree of, hey, can I count on you to come out and vote on May 4th or whatever the election date is? In this case, June 7th this week. And they're like, well, maybe, we have some travel planned that
I
this summer.
think I have nothing to do. So
I just don't know if I can get there anytime during the 2 weeks where I can roll up at any point in time and vote. And when they do go vote, someone's going to pull up and like, what are we voting for again? It's just crazy.
Well, you mentioned something that I think is really telling of humanity in general. Like, and I think this is true about me. Like, I've voted in my voting life. I've far more often voted against something than for something.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever voted for something.
Yep.
Like, it's always a protest.
Right. It's something that that's what's going to motivate you to get engaged. It's something that makes you mad. I had a very enlightening discussion this morning with the city manager, and we went through all these major issues from the police and fire pension to the training facility for our police and fire to big issues that are coming up. And as we were kind of getting close to the end, because she knows this is one of my pet peeve issues, it talked about how we're going to bring up the issue again of moving our trash pickup to the curb from our back alleys. And I want to tell you, just her saying that got me fired up again. All the other big stuff that we're trying to really be, intellectual about solving these problems. But because it's not just me, I'm going to have to help my neighbor move hers and the neighbor behind that. And like every time it's trash, it's going to be a lot more work and effort for no reason. My alley is perfectly designed for trash pickup. Again, these are the issues that become overwhelming and getting me a mental note. Okay, the next time I need to go speak at councils when they start talking about trash pickup. Now, it's also personal because my whole community is very much against moving it to the street, and I still have PTSD from those issues that would get everybody riled up, and I want to go advocate for my community, but that's how it works. That's how our system is we wait till we're upset about something, and then we get engaged.
I mean, when you're trying to get elected, is that part of the process of what do I get people animated about?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure there's science behind that. I see it at the national level and everything.
Oh, for sure, on the national level.
Never did I even think about it. My motivation was engagement. I just wanted people to show up, to know there was an election, to know what's going on. I've watched even this last election, our area voter turnout went way down. And again, we you and I talked about this a little earlier. I don't know that higher vote turnout is the goal. I think higher educated and engaged voters is the goal. And I have an issue with the people that just say, hey, we have a higher voter turnout in November, let's move our elections to November. And again, I'm very much city or local bias or motivated. And so I've seen when you get more voters that know less about what's going on, it's not necessarily a good thing. That being said, it's hard to argue with, you definitely want more people at the polls. That is one of the many signs of engagement, but it's not the only one. And so I just, I don't know. I felt it was important for me, and that didn't start around the campaign. That started from day one. So I created a group called, for my district, it was District 10. It was all in D10. I created meetings every single month. We're meeting on a rhythm where people could come out, open meetings, anybody could come. And there it was, tell me what your issues are now, and then let me go try to fight for them and get things done, and then give you a reporting back that says, here's what I did, so you know what it is. And that got people pulled out and engaged and coming to things. Maybe they don't want to come to City Hall, but they'll come to a meeting at the local library and just say, okay, I got the guy that's, representing me here in a room for an hour or two. Let me tell him what I really think. And that helped, but that's just one step. But I want to get people engaged in the things that matter most to them, and then get elected officials equipped to be competent. And that's not asking for a lot, but I'm also been in it long enough to know that we don't have that always.
So what's your pitch, Adam? In a minute, what's your elevator pitch to a young guy, maybe not young, who's in the elevator, not engaged? Why should they be?
Show up because it matters. We are here for a reason. We are here to bring glory to God. We all have gifts, and our gifts are different, but there is room for deployment of our gifts in leadership. Now, does that mean, as we were talking earlier, does that mean everybody has to run for office? No. But everybody should know who their office holder is, and everybody should find a place in their circle of influence to make a difference. And like I said, it could be coaching. It could be assistant coaching your kid's baseball team or cheer team or volleyball or whatever it is. And then you have a captive audience of people that also are equipped with gifts to make a difference. And you help them. I loved watching, so I mentioned Cooper earlier. He spoke and, talked about breaking the streak in his science project, and that was great. But I loved watching the adults that then said, oh, I can go speak at council. I can make something. And man, speaking at council is not the end all be all. I'm not trying to say that, because we get lots of crazies that are entertaining.
They all make the YouTubes.
Oh my goodness. But, at a certain extent, at least they're doing something, at least they're out there doing something.
What's the adage? You can just do stuff?
You can do stuff. I hope it aligns with things that really matter, but not always.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for taking your faith and applying it in a way that matters and that blesses a lot of people. It's my prayer that a lot of people would hear this and do the same and follow you as you follow Christ.
That's it for everybody. Thank you for making this a priority, not just on a podcast or in your work, but like I for a long time since we met have sensed that like deep care that you have for people. And I don't know what comes from this. I don't know what comes from any of this work, but I know it needs to be done. And I know if you follow what God calls us to in the biblical principles and in a pursuit of Christ, there's never a regret. It's always leads to something productive. And, it's not always a smooth path, but it's always the right path. And I love serving other people.
Results are not the goal. Faithfulness is.
Amen to that.
Adam, until next time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right.